Hello and welcome back to Beyond the Borders. Wait, where are we? This isn't where we used to be. Oh, let me explain where we are. We are right now on the shores of Lake Okoboji in northwest Iowa, 4 miles away from the Minnesota border. And we'll be here for the most of the remainder of the summer. In fact, till probably mid to early August, I think. So, what are we going to talk about today? I am now going to take you to a country in Southeast Asia called the Philippines. I hope you have heard of the Philippines, and if you haven't, I will give you some information. When I first said I was going to do a video about the Philippines, I was like, oh no, people are going to be depressed about all the human rights violations. And I was like, yes, that is depressing, but I want to make this video fun too. However, I will need to talk about the human rights violations, but only briefly, very, very briefly. The human rights violations are a major part of the presidency of Mr. Rodrigo Duterte, the current president of the Philippines, who was recently elected in 2016. Next, I will introduce you to exactly how Mr. Duterte became president. Well, in 2016, the Philippines had an election for president, just like any of us. Except, unlike in our country, there are many candidates who run in a presidential election. In fact, the last presidential election had 5, yes, I repeat, 5 different candidates, and Mr. Duterte won with about 40%. What made his election so surprising was that Duterte comes from the southern city of Davao on the island of Mindanao. The island of Mindanao, if you don't know the Philippines, is the epicenter of most of the violent revolutions and rebellions that have occurred against the government in Manila, the capital. So to have a president come from the most rebellious region of the country was a big, big, big shock to the country's political establishment, who feared the worst. They feared the economy would tank and that all hell would break loose. Well, all hell didn't break loose, but Duterte gave them plenty of reasons to fear that. First, during the campaign, he made his whole campaign message about anti-corruption and more violence against drug abusers, similar to the plan he used in the city of Davao, which was highly successful. Duterte even went as far as threatening to declare a, quote, revolutionary government, whatever the hell that means, if things didn't go his way. But luckily for Mr. Duterte, and for the Philippines, Mr. Duterte has not been forced to declare a revolutionary government, whatever the hell that means. And as a kicker, given the Filipino tradition of family and dynastic politics, President Duterte's successor as the mayor of Davao is his daughter, Sarah. Yeah, talk about nepotism. As president, Duterte followed through, as he promised, with a brutal drug war that has basically been a scorched earth campaign not only against drug dealers, but against drug addicts. It has even included something horrible called extrajudicial killings. Oh dear, that sounds scary enough. Yikes. Extrajudicial killings, if you don't know, are basically when the government orders a murder of someone without any due process at all. Basically, the president, Duterte says, I want you dead, and he's dead. Too bad. Sucks for you. However, I'm going to now go to the more, shall we say, happy part of the video, which is Duterte's more unusual quotes. The first of these comes in September 2016, not long after he was elected president. In fact, he had just been sworn in a few weeks earlier. After then President Barack Obama criticized Duterte's drug war, Duterte used a Filipino phrase in the Filipino slang called putangina, which I don't want to say it on this video, but it means son of a... you know what. Okay. Then, later in 2016, oh, by the way, Obama then canceled the meeting he had planned with Duterte at the ASEAN, the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, I'll talk about that later, summit, and relationships between the two countries deteriorated dramatically. Then later that month, in September 2016, Duterte crossed about 3 million red lines when he said that he would kill about 3 million drug addicts, just as Hitler killed 3 million Jews. Oh. No. You just don't go there. No, you don't go there. So, the next day, Duterte did manage to clean up the mess. He went to the Philippines' largest synagogue. Yes, there are Jews in the Philippines. In fact, I think they're in pretty much every country, even Iran, where he apologized and said that he condemned all forms of anti-Semitism, but he still promised to kill a lot of drug addicts. And he has. Later, by the end of 2016, in December, Duterte made a threat that he would burn down the United Nations, even though he had never even been to the United States, or let alone New York, because they were going to investigate his drug war killings. Yes, I can imagine that. Imagine the sight. So the president of the Philippines goes up and lights a torch on the United Nations and just watches it burn and then flies away. Putting on his sunglasses. Boom. Okay, moving on. Then more recently, Mr. Duterte crossed yet another line that is bizarre. The Philippines, due to its Spanish colonial history, is overwhelmingly Catholic, with a small Muslim minority. So, when Duterte went out on a limb and called God, quote, stupid, he crossed the line of the Catholic Church. And of course, let me explain why this happened. One of the biggest critics of his drug war has been the Catholic Church in the Philippines. And Mr. Duterte has a very, very, very thin skin. I mean, it's totally microscopic. You can't see it through a microscope within a microscope. And so thus, when anyone criticizes his drug war, watch out. His tongue will bite you. Not literally, but it will bite you. And thus, he went again to apologize to the Catholic Church and said he wasn't against religion. Yet, in spite of all this, Mr. Duterte claims an 80%, yes, 80% approval rating. That number is even higher than Duterte's self-described idol, Vladimir Putin, whose approval rating is only in the 60s. Wow, people like Duterte. And why is this? Why is he so popular? Well, the Philippine economy is growing very fast. Okay, now done for the boring part. Basically, Duterte has a style where people forgive him for his most outrageous statements, similar to President Trump. Many Filipinos see him as a, quote, Trump-like figure because he gets things done and doesn't beat around the bush as previous presidents had done. Also, he has not been personally accused of corruption, something that most Filipino presidents before him had. And then again, another thing is that most Filipinos do not care about human rights. Most of them just want better wages and better employment and more economic growth. Who doesn't? While the Philippines has experienced some serious democratic backsliding, as I had said before, Mr. Duterte does plan to step down in 2022. And this is for one reason. He is an old man. He's in his 70s. And numerous reports of his health have swirled around, and he has had to deny all of them. But his system will likely outlast him. You see, in 1986, the Filipino people, in a revolt called the People Power Revolution, overthrew the corrupt and extravagant dictator named Ferdinand Marcos and established a constitution the following year to ensure that the Philippines could never elect another strongman like Marcos ever again. Well, Duterte wants to scrap this constitution and write another one with a much, much, much more powerful presidency. And even better, Duterte's planned successor? Well, his name is Ferdinand Marcos Jr.
So, Sam, it's time for your quiz.
Okay.
Okay, so this quiz section, we'll be using questions from the comments that Sam has not looked at, hopefully.
I'm not.
Let's see. All right, our first question. What is Kim Jong-un's wingspan, and how many dogs does he have?
Well, I think he has about 50, dogs. And his wingspan, that's at least 12 feet long. I mean, it's very impressive.
I mean, you'd be surprised at his wingspan.
Yes.
The next question. Can you tell us about the history of Australia from first encounters outside nations had with the indigenous Australians? Maybe touch on the famous bush ranger Ned Kelly.
Oh yes, Ned Kelly. I'm sorry. I should have got to that question. Thank you, Matt. Matt was in my Dale Carnegie class. Something I would highly recommend taking. Well, not in this video, but I will promise I'll do it before the summer's out.
There you go. We're going to do a video on that. Charlie says, how many North Korean wons is one Bitcoin?
Well, one Bitcoin. I don't know. I mean, I'm
What is your favorite country that you visited and why?
Oh, well, that's obvious. If anyone knows me, that answer is obviously Sweden, because people are beautiful there. Stockholm's a beautiful city, though I'm not going to live there. I just love visiting. I love visiting.
I would have to agree with that. Sweden is amazing.
Yay!
And Cabe says, do Sweden next. So that'll be on our list.
Okay, well, I guess I'll have to do Sweden.
Where was Stranger Things filmed?
In Atlanta?
All right, there you go. There's
okay.
There's the quiz.
Everything's filmed in Atlanta because Georgia gives tax credits. Okay, that's it. Okay, now that we have more time in the summer, we will try to release videos both on Fridays and Mondays. Well, hopefully, loosely. And also, as usual, leave your questions in the comments leave your questions in the comments section below. Jeez, my tongue's just as crazy as Mr. Duterte. Adios!